Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager 23. This is episode 48. We're going to begin this episode with progress. We are about to have our turn of the month, a new ATR period starting, so new projects will be on the way soon. But also Anna Barnard, our sporting director. So this is the crew chief manager. She's up to an 85 overall. Where her points are, though, not entirely sure. For this ATR period, I've picked underfloor, rear wing, side pods for the upgrades, front wing research. Our first part is done for the year. Our front wing is in really good shape. This is going to be our final underfloor upgrade of the year. Remember, we do have minor technical changes for the upcoming year that involves, well, these four components. So in reality, this is going to be the final upgrade on the underfloor, rear wing, side pods. And then we'll get some research done for next year to make sure they stay at the top of the grid. Meanwhile, front wing, we're already getting started on that process. So that means the suspension and the chassis will get an upgrade next window, and those will be the final upgrades of the year. Car's in good shape. We want to keep it in good shape, but we also want to be in good shape for next year because we're in it for the long term, right? And Flourish still has a ways to go to develop. We've got a good car. We've got a capable car now. And yes, we want to keep moving forward. We want to get towards the front of the grid. However, it's still going to be time. It's still going to be a process. She's far from done. We're far from done. So I think starting to change our focus to next season, especially when our position's already good for this season, we could get away without scoring another point the rest of the year, and we'll finish no worse than 7th. We enter another month with the same sort of feedback as what we've been getting. We're the best aerodynamically. We now have the best top speed. The acceleration is still just mid-pack. Brake cooling and engine cooling are still just mid-pack. It's a good car. We should be higher up the grid, but it's the drivers that we have, right? So in our monthly development report, starting with Sargent, as always, +1 on overtaking, +1 on defending. He's getting to be more and more of a racer. His pace is fine. We don't really need him to be faster. In fact, we don't really need him to be better at this point, because this has to be his final season with us. We're going to have to start bridging the gap from him. To an extent, we've bridged the gap already as it is, right? Sargent, where did he start at? 77? Something like that? He's only an 84. Right? He's been +7 overall in third season, yes? 2.5 years, +7 overall. Flourish started at what, a 50? 51? She's +16, +17. She's gained a lot of ground. She's more than 2 to 1 in terms of development. Not quite 2.5 to 1. So she's outgained Sargent quite a bit. She's still 17 points behind him. And as the car gets better, and as he gets better, he's too far up the grid, scoring too many points, setting us up for success, right? We could win a championship with Sargent if the car was good enough. We don't want that to be the case, right? We don't want to go suddenly to the front of the grid, because when are we ever going to get Flourish where we need her to be? We want her to be the first driver for a while. We want her to be competitive. She's scored points once now. She's still got a ways to go to start consistently doing that. I think she's going to have to get into the low 70s before that's going to happen. But if we bridge the gap a little bit, go from an 84 down to a high mid-70s driver, we'll have someone who struggles a little bit more, makes few more mistakes, has a little bit less pace. It helps nerf the car a little bit and sets us up. So next year, I think we'll have a 1-year contract with somebody in that 74 to 78 range to just bring us back down to earth a little bit, get us out of that stratosphere. Meanwhile, for Flourish, +1 to control, +1 to overtaking, +1 to defending. So not a big gain for her this month, but certainly not bad. And for Tanaka, though, she's gaining a lot of points right now. She's already jumped to a 52 from a 50, right? Cornering's +1, adaptability's +1, defending is +1, reactions, and accuracy. So she picked up 5 points, and this should be standard. She should be gaining the fastest and closing up that gap to Flourish a bit. But she's 15 points behind. So, you put those two out there together. Tanaka's not doing anything. She's going to be where Florsch was when we started. Even though the car is good, she's still going to be laps off the pace compared to everybody else, and has a long ways to go before she's going to start beating drivers at the back of the grid. So we want to be patient. Another year of somebody else holding the seat for us besides Sargent, I think, is the way that we're going to need to go forward. We've still got half a season to go here, though. Anyway, quick breakdown of the ratings of Bernard and what they mean now that she's an 85 overall. Her training's a 98 out of 100. This is higher the rating, the faster the pit crew develop through training sessions, and the less performance they lose between seasons. Being a 98 out of 100 is one of the reasons why we've seen our pit crew just get better and better and better. She's got a great rating for that. Aptitude, this is the maximum ratings that your pit crew has. She's been at an 86. This did not develop. This did not change. It's in other areas. So we can't get higher than an 86, but we haven't reached an 86 yet anyway. So we're long from being kind of capped out on what they can do. This is kind of good, though, that, this is her best rating. It's a really good one to have as your best rating. Leadership's a 65. I'm okay with this being the worst rating, because if you've got to pick one out of the four to be significantly less, I think this one's okay. When there is a mistake. When, right? Big key word. Last year we had 2 mistakes all season. This year we've had 3 mistakes in the last few races. I'm dealing with it. We're not doing any training for the first couple weeks of this upcoming month, and it'll be stabilized by that point if we can get through those 2 weeks without mistakes. But minimizing mistakes is really important when they lack leadership. She's a 65 in this area, and this means the delay, meaning how much time is lost when there is a mistake, is what's impacted here. With a low rating, means that they lose more time on a mistake. It doesn't mean that it causes more mistakes. It's just when a mistake occurs, the time loss is greater. If we don't have mistakes, if we can get the pit crew up to that aptitude score, if we can get everything up to about an 86 and then just maintain it, and then she'll slowly build that one up, get it up to an 88, to a 90, and then, keep pushing it in that direction. If we can reach that stage, we're not going to see mistakes. We just have to properly manage it. We saw a lot of mistakes in that first season, but we've managed it much better since these last 2 years. For processes, this is one I would like to see come up the most right now. This is because training's already almost maxed out, because the aptitude is good, because the leadership doesn't matter as much. Processes, for me right now, is the most important to see rise. And I don't know what got the boost here. I would love if this is what improved. Because for this one, higher the rating, the less fatigue that the pit crew gains from race weekends and training sessions, which means we can train more. The recovery rate is the same across the board. But how costly or how much fatigue comes out of a training session, how much fatigue comes out of a race weekend, is what this one's down to. 89 is a good rating, especially for our team. 89 is a very good rating for the 10th team on the grid, the smallest team out there, or certainly one of the couple smallest teams out there in terms of the back room that they offered when you really, at least for the game, when you compared the 10 teams head to head. This is the weakest team on paper. Staff, car, drivers for the most part. When you start out, Albin's pretty good, but the collective, right, as a whole, weakest team. So processes, like if we can get this into the low mid 90s, then we're looking at a staff who really pushes the pit crew to be its best. Bring up the aptitude a little bit, you set the higher standard, and then the leadership just doesn't matter. If it's always a 65, that's fine. Totally fine by me. Right now, I want that processes score to go up. And actually, it's the innovation that I have been training. So what has been training for Bernard is her training and processes. Those are the two that have been coming up. Those are the two that are the most impactful. And until I hit a 100 on training, I'm going to keep her on the innovation because, like I said, right now anyway, those are the two that make the biggest difference. Now, adding in aptitude and processes would be my switch for the next one because, like I said, her leadership doesn't matter. We're lucky to have some of the staff members that we have. They're quite solid. They're good.
Our Formula One season continues here in the Republic of Singapore. The Marina Bay Street Circuit is lit up and ready for action, looking like some sort of scene from a science fiction movie. But the competition is real and nothing else can deliver quite like Formula One. The bumpy street surfaces here make this a challenging circuit for the drivers, and the humidity causes them to lose as much as 3 kilos over the course of a race. But it's also tough on the cars, with 23 corners to tackle each and every lap. Good low-speed downforce will make all the difference here. Final checks are being carried out on the grid, and it won't be long until we get underway. And as we look to Logan Sargent, you can see the focus and concentration.
A second place start for them today. They'll be aiming for a podium, but could they even sneak the win?
And it looks like we're good to go. We're just moments away from the Singapore Grand Prix. And it's lights out and away we go.
Logan Sargent qualified P3, but he's going to get the whole shot into turn number 1, and Verstappen kind of came across him a little bit, squeezed him, but he's still side by side. He got bumped up to P2 after qualifying due to a penalty, new components for one of the competitors, and we will settle into P2. I'm going to immediately back off a little bit, though, as I don't think Sargent needs to be fighting to get into the lead right now. We just need to make sure we're not going off back. Meanwhile, Flores was incredibly close to about 4 cars right in front of her, all within just over a tenth of a second across all 4 drivers, but it was still P20. She could and should be competitive today. We're going to go for the 2-stopper for Flores, but Sargent out front, going all the way to Q3, doesn't have the extra set of softs, and therefore it's going to make more sense for him as we'll push on this second lap to stay a little bit closer here, not let Verstappen pull away from us. 1-stopper for Sargent without that extra set of softs. So mediums to hards is a little bit faster way to go. And meanwhile, Flores, we're kind of going for maximum pace throughout. Both cars have underfueled by 2 laps. That's quite a bit of fuel recovery that's going to be necessary. But that makes us lighter earlier, and hopefully gives us kind of pace we need to compete today. Speaking of competing, Sargent, with that little bit extra push, has closed back up. We've gained about 2 tenths, coming up on 3 tenths to Verstappen here, which means that while pushing in a similar manner to Verstappen, we seem to have ever so slightly better pace than even he does. And now we'll settle in and let things run for a while. Here's the point, though, folks. We don't need to be winning this race. We don't need to be finishing on the podium. That's too many points. That's not our happy zone right now this season. As much as you're like, yeah, we want to get a win. And we do. I'd like to get a win, but I don't want the consequences of that kind of performance. Therefore, that time 16 is going to be my friend today. Strategy blunders could be on purpose. We were out of DRS range of Pourchaire there momentarily, but then Verstappen ends up getting us out of DRS range, and Pourchaire somehow got back in. But if it's yo-yoing a little bit. In fact, Sargent's been faster than Verstappen here lately, has closed right up on him, and the two of them are starting to pull away from the field. Good and bad with that, folks. Good and bad with that. Now let's check strategies. Pourchaire on the softs, Norris, Maloney. So you got a handful of cars, especially those who didn't make Q3, that are going for that tactic. Hopefully Verstappen pulls away. I don't want the win. I don't want those extra 7 points. I don't want that fastest lap. I don't want that extra point. That's 8 points too many. Right now, 18 is probably 10 to 12 points too many. Verstappen has pit already. He's pit very early. Is he on an alternate strategy? Is he going to be running a two-stopper today? If he is, there's real danger that Sargent's going to go on and win this thing. We'll check on what compound he put on here soon. We got held up with traffic, but one thing that has been fixed here is we came out ahead of the Haas and just had to drop behind the McLaren. Or is that the AlphaTauri? It's an AlphaTauri. That AlphaTauri, we would have waited for them before that most recent update. We would have waited for him to go by. And he gets by us anyway, but regardless, we would have been held up more. So I'm glad we're not getting held up that much. Fuel recovery is happening. It's moderate. It's okay. And we'll go standard, settle in. So already back down to P20, but there's a lot of cars that are just now pitting. And with Verstappen, where'd you come out at? On the hards, just P5. Are they going to try to go the distance? It's a little early for that. I think they might be going to softs at the end. I think they might be doing a two-stopper with a medium, hard, soft. And I don't think they're going to be that much faster than us. So Florsch up to P19 as Joe comes out behind with their pit stop. They're on softs right now, though. They're definitely going to be faster. Sargent is hanging on, enters the pit window, but is already down to 34%. We're going to have to go light here a little bit to help. But, you know, you can see how at the very end of each stint, we're kind of over that mark a little bit. Go ahead and go aggressive. Multiple cars have crashed. This could actually work out really well for us. It's a Mercedes. It's an Aston Martin. Can we get a VSC? No, we're not going to get a VSC for that. Ocon while making the overtake. Now, we're not going to come out of this in the lead. But could we come out of it still in second? Maybe. Third? Maybe. Somebody got a penalty for a collision caused. I didn't see who... Ocon got the penalty. Sargent from the race lead. Has led a decent number of laps here, but does not have a significant advantage at this point. Verstappen's just 6.5 seconds behind. Gasly, just 12 seconds behind. Ocon's 15. Pourchaire's 15. Are we going to come out in that mess of traffic, or can we come out at least just behind Gasly? 2.7, not a great stop, and we are definitely coming out in some traffic. Just ahead of a Ferrari. Just ahead of the Ferrari of Russell. Down in P11. Yikes on that part. But we're good to go till the end of the race. We're only going to get up to temperature briefly. We're going to have to lift and coast at some point. And we should have good pace now. But that's Sainz we're on the back of. He's not going to be the easiest overtake. Sainz, I think, was the one who had qualified P2, but went to the back of the grid because of a penalty or multiple penalties. And so he's somebody who's fast. But look, we're faster. Are we going to finish the overtake? We're going to have the inside here in a second and should get the job done and do. But he immediately gets DRS after that, but we hold him off, keep the position. We're up to P10. We now have some clean air out in front of us. A chance to make some forward progress, but we're 21 seconds behind already, which is, well, we lost about 25 seconds on the pit stop. Race is half done. Florsch, a little ways off the back. A little bit more of a driver's track means that her pace is always going to be worse. The easier the track, more competitive she's going to be. We're going to fly up the grid here real fast. In fact, we just passed Russell again, who is now below 50%, so losing that pace. We've also just passed Norris on track. We're also closing up on Verstappen. We're now just 19 seconds behind, but we suspect he'll be on softs at the end of the race. Florsch up to P15 with others pitting, but she's into her pit window. She's passed. For her, we lose maybe half a second, 1 second of her overall race pace when she's 6 seconds off the back compared to everybody else anyway. But onto the softs, good stop. 2.471. Fuel's going to be the one to watch out for in the last handful of laps. Speaking of, time to start conserving Flourish, is she going to get lapped? Leclerc is just behind us, but Leclerc has not pit. Leclerc pits now. So there's Gasly into the race lead. Sargent up to P2. Perez in P3. And they are already on the tail end of the life of their hard compound. Verstappen has pit and is on the soft and is the one coming. Stroll's good to go. Bottas is good to go till the end of the race. Gasly and Perez might try to stay out there, but with 15 laps, that just does not seem likely. Fuel recovers very fast. That's good to know. Let's go ahead and go back to balanced for a while. Verstappen has flown through, is in the race lead. We are third. Verstappen did have the pace after all, but we have caught up to Gasly. So from behind, Sargent now has caught up to Gasly. There's 10 laps to go. Those guys may or may not pit. Okay, well, we're already down to third, and we've got a gap to Stroll, so go ahead and start conserving that fuel. Meanwhile, Flourish has a better chance of getting lapped than she had before, as I'm guessing that Verstappen is pretty dang fast, and yes, Sargent right now looks like he's heading for a podium. Verstappen and Leclerc are definitely driving away, but Stroll, that's the one we got to watch out for. We could get bumped off this podium still. What do we even have to worry about that? Go ahead, save the engine, save one lap of running. Save pushing the engine. Meanwhile, Stroll has caught Sargent. You know what? We're going to do the same thing here. We've got a 10-second gap to Bottas. We're going to take it easy. I'm happy to get bumped off the podium. I'm happy to conserve the components a little bit. I'm happy to get 3 less points. For a little bit, it was looking like we might be competitive for the race win. When I saw how close Verstappen was, how he was within 6 seconds by that first pit stop, or by the time we were taking our pit stop, I figured he was going to have us beat. But I didn't see the Leclerc and Stroll thing coming. Sargent down to a 2.7 second advantage. We're trying. We're trying to let Bottas catch us, but he won't.
Yeah, not the afternoon really.
Verstappen takes the win. Flourish finishes P20. And Sargent does complete P4. But like I said, losing those few extra points is good. So that's a good result for us. Almost too good. Regulation vote change. I plan on being at the back of the grid for a while. And even when we do eventually get up to the front of the grid, I'm still voting in favor of pushing the prize share a little bit more towards the bottom of the grid. Condition is dropping off on the weather center. We might as well get the final upgrade on this one done. It doesn't cost that much more, and 5 million, we have plenty for that, but it also means that I'm not going to be able to get an upgrade elsewhere at the moment, so you can see everything but the helipad, which just got refurbished. I don't know why it requires such constant maintenance for the helipad. Doesn't make much sense, but okay, fine. Scouting department's going to be that last one outside of... actually, no, there's more. Let's see, which one is not maxed out? Oh, the hospitality area is not maxed out? Really? Dang, I did not upgrade that one, as I should have.
Konnichiwa from the Suzuka circuit in Japan. This unique track is a favorite home for motorsports, and it welcomes us back this weekend. Get ready for exhilaration and speed with the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a high-speed, high-downforce circuit with unpredictable weather. Drivers need to have total trust in their cars to make the most of this challenging figure-of-8 lap. After taking the win in the previous race, Red Bull will be hoping...
I've decided to go for some cost-cutting measures. The car's good. We want to keep developing the car, yes, but I don't want to keep spending money on powertrain components when we have all the points we need for the remainder of the season. So to help nerf things a little bit further, we're going to try to go the distance. Flourish on her final set of parts, if we can manage it. We don't need her to go score any more points this season. Next season we want her to start getting there, but we might as well save that money. Meanwhile, for Sargent, we definitely don't need him to be scoring any more points. If we're out of the points, so be it. It's fine. We don't need them. If anything, we want McLaren to overtake us so we can finish P7, and we certainly don't want to threaten those ahead of us. last race, we were well above both McLaren and Mercedes in points. That's an issue. So we're going to try to stretch the parts to the end of the year, including a couple parts that I've already pushed back towards being practice parts only, but aren't in that bad a shape. So the engine, 40%, gearbox 44% for this race for Sargent. It's gonna hurt his pace a bit, but I'm okay with that.
We're all good to go here in Japan with 53 laps around the Suzuka circuit. I suspect that we'll all be closely following Charles Leclerc in this one.
They've got a fantastic opportunity starting on pole, but can they carry it through to the end?
Right, let's get to it then. The drivers are warmed up, they're ready to go here at the Japanese Grand Prix. And it's lights out, and away we go.
Again, penalties. This time it moves Sargent from P4 up to P3. Florsch, meanwhile, not starting from last. She was up P17, but we get squeezed by the Mercedes, who had an excellent start there. That drops us to P4. But again, I'm perfectly okay with us underperforming today and going backwards a bit. Almost am dead set on doing that a bit intentionally. Right now, Florsch has the 4th version of every single car component on her car. All 6 components are on version number 4 for the year. Sargent, meanwhile, is on version 3 for every single component. So we are 1 version behind Florsch in everything. And that means Florsch has the best car out there. Just about. A little bit ahead, right? The acceleration piece does not help. But overall, I think on balance, our car is slightly the best. Sargent does not have that car, right? He's a step below. So not only is he second best behind Florsch, but he's got to be behind the Red Bull because of how close it is. So he's probably dealing with, I'd say, car number 4, 5, 6 track specific. And as a result, very capable of getting podiums, but not necessarily wins. And so everything's kind of making sense with where we're at, what's happening. And we're going to start backing off here a little bit early as Sargent just spun out. Well, there you go. That's going to take care of the issue for today. Is he stuck on DRS is disabled? Is he
at this stage?
through the chicane? Just came out a little early. He's not stuck anywhere.
Just unable to bring the car under control.
Just a little VSC because he's on the track. Should be able to get that going. Should. Like to see him. There we go. He is going. Like to see him battle back from the back of the grid. Almost great to see. Lost 16 positions. All right, let's speed things up to see if he can make any forward progress. 2-stop strategy today, and Sargent has nerfed himself to last place. Big mistake there. Final chicane, end of lap 2. Individual mistake. DeVries makes an individual mistake. Sargent's already closing up on the back end of the grid after getting things going again once everybody went by. And was a bit overheated. Took a bit of extra wear on the tires. And remember, we nerfed his car quite a bit today, which means he's got some decent pace, but not that great. He's there now. He's caught up to Magnussen. Leclerc leads from Verstappen. Perez. McLaren's not looking like they're getting any points today, so I don't think they're going to be challenging us. But Mercedes, that should help them pull away from us if they can finish how they are. If we can stay out of the points or only just get into the points with Sargent today. Florsch around Albon, P15. It's lap 14. We got a ways to go. We're just pushing on. Slow recovery on the fuel, if there's any. That's just about, but we only went 1 lap below, so it's really not going to take that long. But window is open for that first stop, and we are awfully close to each other. We're not going to be able to double stack, so we're going to have to watch out for that one. Florsch is a little bit better off than Sargent. Sargent's going to pit a lap earlier, I think. First pit stop of the day, 2.631. Decent stop, comes back out. Flourish, the extra lap just drops her below that 30% threshold. It's going to help her out a little bit later, but definitely hurt her pace this lap a little bit. They should have been able to easily double stack, but because of Sargent's mistake and then catching back up, just put them off. 2.644, so very similar pit stop time. And there is her teammate. She's going to be just ahead of him, squeezing in just behind Zhou Guan Yu. We ride on board with Flourish about a lap later now. We're coming right up on the end of that lap, so her out lap. And Sargent has closed up on her, has DRS, but has not been able to make the overtake as of yet. I'll let him race. No reason to send Sargent on his way. For now, after our first pit stop, we are P18, P19. So Flourish has been undercut a little bit. And a lot are going to go soft, medium. So those who pit early are doing the softs. Couple cars on the hards. Stroll, Sonoda, are they going to try to go the distance? Flourish still ahead of Sargent for now. Very, very close between the pair. With DRS, I would think Sargent's going to be able to get the overtake done prior to turn 1, but does not have the extra pace. Just got even closer, but could not get the overtake. So Flourish still ahead, has held him off for a couple laps now. Sargent having a look up the inside, down the back stretch, and has not gotten around, tucks back in behind once again. Flourish still ahead. Can Sargent get a little more of a run here, or is it going to be a repeat of the last lap? It is a repeat of the last lap. Looks inside, but stays tucked in. Never really gets out from behind. So the battle continues. Sargent is clearly faster than Flourish, but just does not have enough about him to complete the overtake, even with DRS, which means we could be in trouble today on points, and that's, of course, a good thing. This time, solidly, was a little bit further back, and that actually made the difference. Sargent goes up the inside, completes the overtake up to P17. Let's see how quickly he pulls away. It's lap 24 right now. Verstappen, along with one of the Alpines. Oh, Verstappen with the lockup, collects them. They luck out. They might not have gotten in too much trouble. Verstappen should have a penalty for that, though. Did cause a collision. Lap 26, just after that incident, Flourish is now out of DRS range. It was Bottas that Verstappen hit. No penalties given, right? Couldn't be clearer who caused that one. What? It's a racing incident because he locked up? We see drivers lock up and get penalties all the time. Meanwhile, Flourish is actually only 2 seconds behind Sargent. Sargent, of course, does have the nerfed car a little bit, but it's just the powertrain issues. The aerodynamic components are totally fine. It's the same issue we had, and Sargent still qualified P4, started P3, and Flourish, okay, fine, wasn't last. She started like P16, but definitely not pulling away very fast. Starting to now, though, as the tire wear increases, we're seeing Sargent have a little bit better pace, holding up a little bit better, a little bit longer. For now, we're up to P10, P11, but so many cars have already made their second stops. We're going to be faster on our last stint, but how much ground have we actually made up? Because reality is there isn't a big gap between us, but we are, we're ready to push. With the gap out to 9 seconds between the pair, I think we'll have no issues with a double stack. The only threat we have is of a mistake. So Sargent down pit road comes in. Good stop, 2.573, and Flourish 2.593. Both of them put in a good time on that one. And we're going to come back out. Sargent comes back out in P16. Flourish in P19. DeVries as well off the pace. And Flourish could be competitive with those Alfa Romeos. Well, let's let them go gradually forward at this point. Fuel is not quite right. We are going to have to do a little lifting coast, but very little. That was only 1 lap. Sargent got around sides. No. Sorry, it's Gio. We haven't caught him. We did see that pit. And Flourish gets around the inside of Zhou into turn 1. So that's awesome. She's up to P18. Going to try to the outside. And we are side by side. But we tuck in. Oof. Could have had the job done there. Flourish. Albin blocks really well there. Kind of drove down the middle. Didn't give us the outside. Didn't give us the inside. Verstappen, only P11. No points for him today. Mercedes doing very well. They're going to score a lot of points. That's great for us. Norris has managed to get up into the points, up in P8. We'll score some. That's going to help close the gap on us just a little bit. Gio overtook Magnussen, and we kind of missed out on that one. Flourish, meanwhile, is all over the back of Albin and gets up the inside for turn 1 and completes the overtake up to P17. Good for her. Flourish has driven away from Albin. Go ahead and just go standard. See it out to the end. Sargent can't go forward. 2-car train. We could easily have P12 here, but can't seem to go forward at all. Is that the weaker engine? The weaker gearbox? Could be, probably, impacting it. But is it the spin? Absolutely. That's the main cause. 1 lap to go for Sargent. 1 lap to go from P14. Can't close up. It's Gio now as Magnussen has used the DRS to get back forward. It's the front car that's vulnerable. It's the back car that's stuck. Verstappen has nearly caught Maloney to steal a point away from the AlphaTauri. And we are up alongside Gio. We've gotten through. P13. We'll have DRS here, but it's going to be too late with the start-finish line. In fact, we don't even get DRS on the final lap. That's it. P13 for Sargent. The Flourish has made it around a couple of cars, and we nearly caught Sainz here at the end. There was nothing wrong with Sainz today. Absolutely nothing wrong in the Red Bull. Was just horribly off pace. P17. No points. I like it. Sargent still P6. Leclerc picks up a lot of points, but is still almost 100 behind Verstappen, so not looking to challenge anytime soon, but it is a 2-3 for the Ferrari pair, with Lance Stroll now equal on points, though, with Russell. Bottas also close behind. We are a little bit closer with Sainz, but Sainz has not done anything the last couple of races. It's Perez who's coming along after their P2 today, getting to 100 points. In the Constructors, Red Bull 40 points ahead of Ferrari. Ferrari, that solid 2-3, can challenge, but those two are really pulling away with Alpine, Aston Martin, Mercedes. Big points for them. Opened that gap. They're almost 50 ahead of us now. McLaren, they added 4 points, right? We're 33 ahead. We're not going to luck out with a spin every time from Sargent, so I have a feeling P6 is probably where we're headed. McLaren just does not seem to be putting up enough of a fight, and AlphaTauri just scored almost half of the points they've had on the entire season in this race. That was big for them. With us getting out of the way, it's brought somebody forward, and right now it's not really McLaren. Suddenly it's AlphaTauri that's coming forward, and again, that's not what we need. We need McLaren to pick up some points to try to jump us before the end of the season, so we can get that desired P7 finish. But yeah, I have a feeling P6, and between a P6 and where the car is at, I would expect the board to want us to finish P5 or better next season. But if we can get 6 and them ask for P6, I'd be thrilled next year, because again, we're going to try to nerf further. We're going to take a weaker driver than Sargent. Maybe that could be a good thing, in that we actually have to go out and work hard to get those points to get that P6. But yeah, right now we're a little too good for ourselves. That's going to do it for this episode, though. We did do well in the fastest pit stop. We're 5th there, and not too far behind Alpine, but we've got a ways to go yet to really move up. But that's a comfortable one where I'm happy. Really 6 teams kind of doing all of that. And that was without any quick pit stops today, but no mistakes. That's important. We've gotten through that period where we needed to recover that last little bit of fatigue. Even though we have another race in a week, the fatigue's recovered. We're going to start, actually, no, it's 2 weeks till we have that next race. So we're going to start getting some training in with the pit crew once again, and get them at least level. 3 weeks in a short month, it's hard to come out level, but we're about there on coming out level. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.